And a very pleasant Tuesday evening to everyone. Welcome to Ridgecrest Talk. And as always on Tuesday night, our sports is the theme tonight. And Paul Vanderwerff joins us. Paul, no strange face to KZGN. He's here every Monday night and talks about everything with outdoor life, Gentle Ben, Bambi, everything from the forest to the trails to the hills. Paul's pretty much an expert on. And tonight we're going to tax his other expertise, and that's local community sports. He has been here his whole life and participated in some great teams and very involved in the community as far as officiating and many other things. Has done some coaching also. And this is the second time we've talked to Paul. We didn't get very far the first time. We just, he opened up his knowledge and boy, we're going to brought him back again for a second part. And Paul, let's talk about, first of all, give us again your background, athletic-wise, sports-wise. You went to Burroughs, you played for the legend, Larry Bird, and you had some great memories. Just briefly tell us about basketball and the history there.
Right. Yeah, I attended K through 12, Sierra Sands, Richmond and Murray and Burroughs. Back when, before the great shift, we had a 4-year high school, and then we went to a 3-year high school. And I was in that the last year of that 4-year before we switched to a 3-year high school, and the 3 years at the junior high. 9th grade was at the junior high. And then played, I didn't play sports my freshman year. I was, actually I was told I'd never walk again. I was injured from a surgery. I had a bone tumor, and I didn't play sports. But from my sophomore year on, basketball and baseball were the sports. I really considered the other sports. I thought about playing football and other things. I just ended up not playing. But it was a fun time growing up. We kind of talked about a lot of the community was growing up on the base. We had the civilians living on the base at the time. And so half of my class from kindergarten I graduated high school with. There wasn't a lot of moving in and out. The parents all came out and were actively involved. Everybody kind of had that same day shift working on the base. We didn't have the longer hours that they have now. It was Monday through Friday with a shorter work day. You still had enough energy to go out and help in the evening. Little League on the base was all volunteer umpires. Ridgecrest started paying the umpires, and I think China Lake folded. They never paid an umpire all the years that they had the Little League base, because all those dads were always coming out and helping. And then after the high school sports, Syracuse only had basketball, and that was played at the base gym. And so I didn't even consider sports locally, and I headed off to college. And the one thing that's continued is the officiating. I graduated June 10th, 1982 on a Friday night, and Saturday morning at 8 o'clock I was umpiring the dish at the varsity summer league for Burroughs High School with a doubleheader. Bill Sizemore was coaching back then. He's a local person. Actually, if you look at the turnover, if you really look at the sports, it seems like about half of our coaches are people that grew up in the community that have come back. So if you look at your high school coaches currently, if you were to list all your high school coaches and said, okay, how many of these guys grew up here and went to school at Burroughs, you probably have about half. Even going into our administrators, our superintendent, our principals, it's probably that same thing. About half those people do come back. So you do have quite a bit of tradition of people that have been involved with sports over the years that have that knowledge base. We've had that one great success in football a few years back, and then we had another one back in the mid-'70s with football. Basketball, we had that great team in I think it was probably the late 50s, before my time, and then we had Coach Bird with his huge run, number of years. I think the key that I kind of remember was, for my 4 years in high school, you could go to every home game and not see the team lose.
Wow.
As a fan, can you imagine every time you go in, you come out, okay, we won, another great game. But yeah, it was quite a great time playing basketball. But what I always say now, looking back at it, is it was the community. It was growing up together, and the community who knew those people growing up were coming out to the games. When we had some of those big playoff games, we would meet at the county park, and we would even have the mayor give us a send-off. And we'd have 6 school buses of students going to the away game, 3 hours away on a bus. You know, imagine, you know, nothing like that now, that excitement level. And that's not typical for every game. That was kind of, you know, some of the big championship type games for the CIF going out of town. We were playing basketball into mid-March.
Wow.
You know, we were the March Madness of Ridgecrest, I think, playing basketball. And we were starting in November. So we were going from November to March. And then, you know, the football players were having to adjust real quick to get into the season. And then you're coming off of basketball to play baseball. And the season was already starting in baseball because you're coming into the sport late. But yeah, it was a great, exciting time to grow up and play locally. And it's a little frustrating now when I look at the opportunities that are there. I don't see the community doing as much as could be done. Back then, if you looked at what facilities we had, they were packed. You know, and there were programs that didn't happen because they couldn't get facilities.
Wow.
The only facility that's like that now is Monroe. I think Monroe has a requirement. 1,000 people per day must go through that gym because that gym is always packed. But other than that, we have, you know, the base gym, the city gym, the college gym, and back in the day, it was just the base gym and Monroe gym.
All right, we're going to take our first break. More with Paul Vanderwerff right after this quick timeout. This is our Tuesday night Ridgecrest Talk right here on KZGN. And we are back on Tuesday night. If you just tuned in, I'm Tom Heck. Paul Vanderwerff here with us tonight. And no, it's not Monday night, it's Tuesday night. Paul has his Monday night show, but nice enough to talk about his other interest, which is athletic sports and recreation. And Paul, you've talked a lot about Burroughs High School, the legacy there. Larry Bird back in the 80s and into the, well, about 1989, I believe, was his first year at Saracoso, right around there, give or take a year. I could be wrong on that, but they originally, Saracoso did play at the base gym, and then they moved over to Kerr-McGee for a year, and then they ended up up the hill now in a nice spacious gymnasium there. But tell us a little bit about your recreational adventures and officiating and what it's like sometimes to work with the general public. I know you do, I know you've done high school, and I know you've also done some junior high along with that, and even elementary, and city leagues galore.
Yeah, you know, the key, I think, in getting community involvement is you get the older kids working with the younger kids. And you saw that in the 5th grade basketball league. I saw some of the participation there where the high school kids would come in and coach the 5th grade. And that's the type of thing that you need for a program to continue. Because now those 5th graders, when they get in high school, they want to come back and work with the kids. And once you get that program going, that's where you get the community building. We used to play at the elementary level, we challenged other schools. And at the high school, we had it in our curriculum that we had the time that we could take off an hour a day and go back to the elementary and tutor the kids. So I would spend 20 minutes tutoring in the classroom and 45 minutes out on the lunch recess playing, you know, organizing a softball league or organizing a basketball league. So then those same experience that I had in elementary school with some of those teachers at Richmond, it was Hammerberg was one of the big ones, and Marinix. They would organize the leagues, and then when I was in high school, I came back and ran the same leagues. If I had an away game out of town, I had 2 whistles, and I'd find 2 friends, and I'd say, hey, you got to go cover these games over there, and there was enough flexibility in the schedule. You know, I'd find some guys that had that hour that they were doing a TA or something, so they could sneak off campus and go do that. And that type of experience, that type of organization fosters a program that continues where it's not just a parent with their own kid, but it's a community that's bringing that program along. I do a lot of officiating, I think just because it's an excuse to stay on the competitive field and get paid. With all the other responsibilities, if you're not getting paid, you can't just go out and play every night. So I think I use that as an excuse. It's like, okay, I got to go to work now, go do 4 basketball games. And it's amazing at my age to think, you know, I'm running up and down the court for 4 hours and I'm not falling over dead. Because it really is, it takes a lot of energy. Even now, even at the rec level, we're going with 3 officials because of the pace of the game. With that 3-point shot, they're just pulling up and shooting. And with 2 officials, you're just running crazy. You can't keep up. Softball, I've kind of slowed down this year just because of some of the tournaments have not needed as many officials. We had a rain out at our traditional fast pitch tournament in Fresno. That tournament got canceled in April. I just backed out of the tournament in Las Vegas that I've gone to probably for about 8 years in a row. That's next weekend. So I haven't done as much softball. I did pick up soccer, and it really doesn't matter what the sport is. The involvement is all the same. The kids just want to go out and play. If nobody knows who the ball went out on, you could do rock, paper, scissors, and the kids would be happy with the result. It's usually the adults that are more invested, that want it done a certain way, that are the ones that get real excited and get upset about things. if I'm doing, like the league at Richmond, when I came back to Ridgecrest, I ran some leagues at Richmond and at charter school, and I even made it out to Las Flores for a short time. Not Las Flores, Fowler. I was out at Fowler for one or 2 seasons, and that's all you have to do with the kids. Hey, I didn't see it. Well, I thought it was out on him. It was out on him. All right, rock, paper, scissors, and then off they go. And really, that's what sports is about. There are some differences with the girls. The girls are very social, and they just want to be part of the group and participate. I think it was at Fowler, we had 2 girls interested in playing in the girls' league. And I pulled all the girls together, and I just kind of talked to them about it, about just having fun and that they had some control over how the league was run. And we had 20 girls sign up in one day.
Wow. Instead
of the 2, who I would say those 2 were more almost like tomboys. They were just very athletic. A lot of the girls are like, I'll play if she plays. I'll play if she plays. And that's a little bit different than some of the boys. And I think even at the high school level, you go through, as a coach, you go through a certification. The National Federation of High Schools has a certification as a coach. And you get a magazine, and you get certain materials that you're keeping up to date on. And even in some of those materials, they talk about that. You can't just be a baseball coach for 10 years and then walk out on the softball field and coach the girls just like you're coaching the guys. There's some things that are a little bit different in how you approach it and how people take things. And you can stereotype anything, but there are some differences. I say girls, especially as a sports official, girls will respond more emotionally at an issue, but they are sure tougher than the guys. They get over the issue and they can play. A guy will get upset about a play or a call, and his mind will be so mixed up that he will be 30 minutes and he's still upset about it and not able to play. Where the girls typically will get that emotion out of the way, and then off they go into the next play. And that's an important mindset. I've talked about that. Some of the great athletes I've known is the psychology of sport. Is being able to play in the moment, being able to just play, forget everything else. Can you walk onto your playing thing and drop everything else in your life, all of your school situation, all of your home life situation, and just enjoy the moment? And for some people, they can. That's a great experience and a great getaway. For other people, we call them head cases and things like that, but they end up having the outbursts just like you would in the classroom or at home or anything else. If something's wrong, it comes out in the sporting event, and they're not able to stay focused on it. But I think that's one of the great things about sports. We have the studies. I was looking at one of the studies. The average age for a female to drop out of sports is age 14. The average age for a boy is age 16. So if we were to take those statistics and then we fall into a situation like at the high school level, the Mojave River League, which Burroughs just moved into, has dropped freshman sports. So you're playing JV or varsity, where the Desert Sky League that Burroughs was in before did have freshman sports. Well, what impact does that have on girls if they're quitting sports by age 14? You've got boys that are going to maybe come out that sophomore year or even the junior year, where the girls, 90% of those girls are quitting already before they have a chance to even make the JV team, unless they're that 1 or 2 freshmen that are above, that they can compete with the kids 2 years older. And so some of those statistics and some of that information is out there. Do we always make every decision looking at all that information? Not really. I mean, there's a huge amount of information that's out there. There's a huge amount that I see that can be done better, and there's a huge amount that I see that's done well. Recently, I've been over at Tehachapi at the Parks and Rec, and I actually had my girls go over there and play because they had an all-girls league. We've had all girls leagues in the Indian Wells Valley, but it's been hit or miss. We'll have it for 3 or 4 years, and then next five years we don't have it. But what's the difference in playing co-ed for kids versus playing all girls or all boys? You know, if you're the one girl on the team out of 10, or if you have 10 girls on your team. And my girls had a great time playing over at Tehachapi. If I could put them in.
Hold that thought, Paul. We'll be back for our last segment in just a few minutes. Now this time out. This is Tuesday Night Live with KZGN, Paul and Tom. And we're back on Tuesday night. Tom Heck, Paul Vanderwerff, and Paul and I have talked about the history of Burroughs basketball, the years of glory with Coach Larry Bird, CIF championships. Paul, a member of those teams, and Paul's done a whole lot with recreation, different departments. He's done at all levels as far as officiating different sports, and has a lot of memories and a lot of good ideas about how to build community bonding. Paul, let's talk about sometimes working with adults in city leagues. And I know you've done a lot of that in softball and basketball.
You know, when they walk through the gate or they walk through the door, they become 8 years old. It doesn't matter what the physical age, they're 8 years old when they walk out on the field. You know, there's certain things you can do preventatively that go a long way. A pregame with your partner as an official, if you have one, a pregame with your coaches, setting some boundaries and getting some help. If I can turn to the coach and have the coach take care of an adult rather than have to do it, then no one's getting embarrassed and no one blows up. If I don't have that pregame, there might be different expectations. The coach thinks that I should go talk to the player, or I don't want to talk to the player because just thinking that I'm showing him up, that player might become more assertive, where it's not even an issue as an umpire. I just want to keep the game going smoothly. I see something that we can fix right away that's not a problem. The base coach has a glove. The base coach is not supposed to have a glove. They're supposed to keep their glove in the dugout. If I wait till that becomes a problem, I could have prevented that. How do I talk to that player? Do I just go up to the player and say, hey, I need you to put that glove away? Yeah, that usually works. Sometimes if I got a good relationship with the coach, hey, coach, remember. Both coaches together, hey, coaches, remember, they're not supposed to have a glove. And then now the coach goes and takes care of it. So there's all types of different skills. And some of them are the smallest, littlest thing that you learned way back when, and it makes a big difference. I had a problem up in Sausalito years back where I almost had a brawl. I had guys coming out of the dugout with bats. And it was that close, and I had learned something along the way. I said the right thing the right time and got out of that situation. And you know, I honestly, I think we always talk about all the video games that people are playing, and are their social skills getting better or worse? I think there's a huge improvement from the 70s and 80s in our behavior of our athletes, both adult and youth. And I think part of that is just a change in the society. But also, I think now there is some work that needs to be done, because we don't, as officials and as trainers, we don't spend as much time talking and training the way that it was done before we had all these electronics. And so you get these athletes out here who also are not communicating as much. The communication is done different. When I'm talking to you and I'm texting at the same time, you know, there's not quite the same interaction and focus. And that can be taken differently. You know, if I'm younger and you're older and I'm texting while I'm talking to you, you might kind of be offended by that I'm being disrespectful. Where for the kids that are texting, I'm just texting all the time. That's just, you know, that's like you wearing a watch. You got your watch on, I'm texting. We had a great video I saw from the Las Vegas Association. They posted this video. This kid had got onto, I think, an ESPN highlight. A 4-year-old kid wearing full referee uniform. And he was walking up and down the sideline imitating the basketball referee. And he was there on the side giving the signals, putting his hand up on the out of bounds, pointing to where to take the ball. It was really kind of hilarious because he was pretty good at it. And it kind of stole the show. I saw it on like a YouTube type thing. And, but the funny part about it, that what they had posted on was, as sports officials, look at the officials on the court. And what was the comment he's making? This was a rec league back in the Midwest somewhere. I think it was like Wisconsin or somewhere. But One official had long pants, one official had short pants. The official was wearing jewelry and his watch and all these different things, things that the everyday person doesn't think about. But if you know anything about a uniform, being in the military or police or anything else, you have a presence. When you're in a uniform, you have a presence. And that presence helps as a police officer, it helps put people at ease, and it helps just by standing there. You have an officer who looks fit and has a good looking uniform, and he's standing in the middle of a situation, people feel relaxed. He's in control, I'm safe, I don't have to escalate the situation. Just by that presence, that makes a big difference. And the same thing is true with a basketball official or softball official. When you stand out there and you're in uniform and you look good, people go, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. That's just psychological, whether you really know what you're doing or not. But that's what the comment was. I think it was just a night or two ago when I saw that from the Las Vegas group, which has a huge group of really professional officials in their group, and it gives some different dynamics when I'm working with college evaluators or experienced college officials that we don't have in a small town. You see things differently. And that's quite a bit different. To be honest, adult sports, when you have a lot of experience, I totally enjoy. I just have a blast because I'm relaxed and they're relaxed, and they get a sense, if you know what you're doing, when you're totally relaxed, but you call a complex play exactly right, you explain it to everybody, and everybody's kind of like, oh, I didn't even know that rule. I didn't know that's why you do it. Understanding the tradition. When I played basketball, there was no three-point line. No three-point line, really? When I played basketball, if it was a jump ball, there was no arrow. You jumped.
That's right.
You jumped either at the free throw line or at the midcourt, whichever was the closest circle. And we would get our big man in that spot for the jump. So if there was a jump ball and I was next to that spot where the jump was going, I was the small guy, I would jump on that spot and hold it until my big man got over there. Then I would step out and he'd get that spot, because we wanted certain spots around the circle to run certain plays. Well, how much do you do that now in basketball when you have one jump ball a game?
That's true. Very good point.
Years ago, the gyms were torn up. You'd go into the Arvin gym and you'd be like, oh my goodness, we're playing in here? One of those courts that had the seats up on the side still, the old gymnasiums. The visitors would pick the basket. The visitors had a choice of which basket to pick because they weren't the ones responsible for these baskets that were all bent. And so the home team might know they got an advantage if they get this basket at the end of the game. Well, the visitors got to pick, so they decided if we're going to shoot at the bad rim or are we going to shoot at the first half or the second half. Well, eventually, guess what they said? The referees can't throw the ball up straight, so we're not going to do the jump ball. We're going to just take turns. That's the truth of what happened on that rule. It speeds up the game. The referees don't mess up by throwing the ball off sideways, and it speeds, and the game moves on. The rims are all pretty good now. We all have the budgets that we have good rims. So now instead of the visitor picks the basket, you always go to the basket opposite of where you're sitting. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why do you go to the basket opposite your sitting? Well, it does make sense when you start getting into the rules. At the end of the game, the coach wants to have his offense in front of his bench so he can get that play in at the end of the game to win the game. If he's yelling at the other end of the court, it doesn't help. Wow. So now the whole rule about which basket you go to is about the coach at the end of the game. And that's a difference in the times. Wow.
All right, Paul, boy, we'll have to bring him back again. He is a lot of information, and it's very interesting. Well, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. Every Tuesday night, as our theme is sports. This is our KZGN Tuesday night. Paul Vanderwerff, Tom Heck. Our theme is always sports.